I want just to say that, well, the sun is still in Aries. We just entered Aries. And yesterday was full moon. That means the moon is opposite. And so the moon is still in Libra, the sign facing Aries. And those two signs are, one is ruled by Mars, and the other one, Libra, is ruled by Venus. So we have the power of the masculine energy with the Aries and Mars, and we have the power of feminine energy with Libra and Venus. Okay, so I thought that today was a good day to speak about the masculine and the feminine similarities and differences, especially differences, right? Also because the full moon, this is this opposition, but it's the opposition that allows us to see the moon. Oh, I see someone there. Thank you. Hello. Thank you for connecting even from the post office. Thank you, Elizabeth. Thank you, Mom. It's nice to see my mom there, especially when I speak about the full moon, right? So now the moon is already mm, it's already gone, but it's still full. You can see her, and it's still in Libra. What about tea? I told you I will speak about it today. I want to start from this point. The master of my spiritual master used to say that half of our spiritual path is like drinking tea, meaning that it's something that everybody can do. If you don't like tea, maybe it's the coffee or the water or what you want, but it's like something that we have in common. And the other half is something that nobody can tell what it is, because it's different for everybody, because we are all different, right? So there are things that we can do, things that we have in common, and things that are so different for everybody. Then my master used to say, yeah, half of the path is like drinking tea, and the other half is like the marriage, like challenging as a relationship. This is the subtle meaning. Yes, all the relationships are like spiritual path or part of our spiritual path, because in every kind of relationship we are facing someone else, like the sun and the moon, like Venus and Mars in this present day. And I will speak about men and women, but not now. I want just to speak of relationship in general terms, right? So every relationship, because Libra, where the moon is a sign dedicated to relationships, while Aries, where is the sun, well, it's very individualistic. So in order to get the best from a relationship, we should cultivate our boundaries in order to understand where the boundary are between us and the other one. This is subtle. We will see about this later. Now I will go more general, okay? So a bit of tea. But it's true that every relationship becomes really kind of challenge in our life, and this is the spiritual part, because spiritual path is something through which we understand our essence and we start taming our ego. Otherwise the ego will be always put itself in the middle, right? Well, let's speak of this in a while. So about the masculine and the feminine, about the relationship and differences. We know that in order to integrate something new, in order to learn, in order to move from our comfort zone, we have to explore something different. Otherwise, we are still there and we remain the same. But this is not our spiritual purpose, right? Our spiritual purpose is to expand or to develop our consciousness, okay? And it's really important to meet different options, different lessons through something or someone different from us. But differentiation, the ability to recognize something different, is also the prerequisite for integration, to acquire something new, to integrate, to comprehend, to understand deeply, embody something different. Okay, so every challenge is an opportunity to learn, to expand our level, our degree of consciousness. And then many times I hear about generalization. That is not exactly differentiation. It's the door to discrimination, and discrimination is not differentiation. And here we are. Here I want to speak about the masculine and the feminine. That is not about men and women, because look at nature. Look at objects. We have some objects that we can call feminine in their shape, like, look at the structure of the woman's body, of the women's body. Okay, the pelvis is bigger because it's meant to, just in case, contain a baby. Men, they don't need so. Not really that, because they have other kind of settings, so it's not supposed they deliver babies. This is nature, of course. Then we can do everything we want, apparently, at least. But this is nature. You look at animals, more or less it works this way. So we associate the shape of a container to something that is feminine, and same reason why we associate everything that has a kind of point to something masculine. It's shape and function, okay? But it's not men and women, not necessarily. Yes, if we speak about some structural point of view or hormonal point of view, we can see that we are different. But we have so many degrees of femininity and masculinity in every individual. It doesn't matter which gender. There are so many shades, okay? And the issue is when we start with those generalizations that are like women are and men are. No. Even if there are some features, there are some attributes that look like very common in men and very common in women, but it doesn't mean that all the men, all the women are. Because otherwise we start discriminating. That is not differentiating. Differentiating is much more about notice and respect a difference. And those differences are meant to help us develop our consciousness. But when we start discriminating, then we operate a separation. It's not like differentiation, it's something else, creating kind of friction and maybe a conflict. Okay, so let's look at the differences the differences, sorry, the differentiation and the differences, and understand also maybe there is something we have in common. Judgment is not so helpful when we start thinking in terms of good, bad, better, worse. It's not. There are things, attributes that are more functional in some circumstances and less functional in other circumstances, okay? It's not a judgment. It's just noticing what we need sometimes and what we don't need, but in a certain context, moment, specific, okay? So let's look at what is masculine and feminine. Look at nature. We already spoke about the elements. We really, if we look at some spiritual traditions, we discovered that there are elements like fire and air, more associated to the masculine, and other elements, earth and water, more to feminine. The shape of a container, it's like a cup, is defined feminine. The shape of the arrow or a sword is defined the masculine, because the functions are very similar to the shape of a body belonging to a woman or a man, okay? But again, let's discover all the shades of the feminine and of the masculine in both men and women. That is much more interesting. Otherwise, we start discriminating. And another thing that I want to point out is, do you know, I look at the moon and I look at the sun. I look at the seasons and I look at the moon cycle that are similar for many aspects in their phases. So sometimes I hear people saying, oh, the lunar calendar is much better than the solar calendar or vice versa. There is no better and worse. There is functionality. The lunar calendar is very common in those parts of the world which are so close to the equator, and there are no seasons. Or, well, yes, there are seasons, but not really. So the more we proceed towards the poles, and the more we find seasons, and so a solar calendar makes more sense. So it's not better, this is better than the other. It's, in some parts of the world, one is more functional than the other one. And then, of course, we move around, we move country, we move, and we keep our traditions. So if you love the moon calendar and you are living in another place that is not there, where people start using that, it's totally fine, it's great. And if I would move to the equator, probably I would keep the count of the seasons. It's a very personal choice, and it's functional for us. There is never something absolutely better or worse than something else. Maybe it's really personal. So let's stick with the master of my master, and remember that, okay, half of our spiritual path is really about, it's like drinking tea, and the other half is really so personal that nobody can tell you, because you will discover that. You will test, maybe you will try different paths and you will find yours. And so also in our relationships, yeah, we have to understand what we can change in ourselves, but not to please the other one, just to integrate something that could be useful for us, and when we have to put more clear boundaries to say, no, this is what I am, this is my essence, this is not just my behavior, so I'm happy like this, I'm not changing to please you. We can find an agreement, we can change something in our behavior in order to find more harmony, right? But it's not about I'm right, you are wrong. It's not about I'm the good one and you're not. Okay, so let's think of what is functional. Let's think about what could be more functional in a relationship than something else. But it's always something that we have to deal with, not because we have to please others, but we have for sure something to learn from others. In any way, it's really about what is functional in the relationship and not about changing our nature. Our nature is our nature. But then the ego is something else. And the thing is how we can understand where is our nature, what are the boundaries between our nature and our ego, so how we can discover what is really us and what is our ego. We will leave this for another conversation, maybe not the next, but maybe probably the next. Okay, the next one will be about angels. So thank you so much for being here with me. I keep drinking my tea. I invite you to drink your water, your tea, your whatever you like, and see you next time. Bye bye.